Good day, this is Don with the DIY Collaborative, and today I'm going to go over changing the garage door belt on a Chamberlain Liftmaster garage door opener. And the reason for this is the wife called the other day and said, hey, the garage door's not opening all the way, what's up? So further inspection revealed that the belt on this model was missing teeth, as you can see in these photos here. So after doing a bit of research, and since I had never tried to replace a belt like this before, I checked on Amazon and found what I think is the part, and it arrived in like a little over a day. I've put links to the item numbers in my description down below. The unit, or the replacement belt, comes with safety instructions, and please read and heed these instructions. Here I'm just showing you what the brand new belt looks like upon arrival. And I can't stress this enough, before even inspecting one of these units, make sure that you've got the power off to the unit, either by disconnecting the unit at the plug or turning it off at the breaker that controls that power circuit. Okay, in this particular case, the unit, I'm disconnecting the power at a plug that's right adjacent to where the actual unit is. And I'm inspecting the area where the pulley is on the garage door side of the T-rail. And here's what I'm concerned about, is the clearance above the pulley. All of my research revealed that you have to take these things completely down to replace them. So here I'm disengaging the actual load of the garage door on the opener, and I'm removing the Clevis pin that actually holds the lift arm on the trolley of the T-rail of the garage door unit itself. And you can see here I'm freely sliding that to and fro out of the way. And here I've just placed some tape, and I just did this because I wanted to, and I'm noting where the position of the existing belt is. And here's what I've got to release, is this nut on this tensioner spring on the old belt. And you can see here, and I've sped up the clip a little bit, showing you that it takes a little bit to get this off. Once it's off, you'll be able to pull the threaded part of the rod out, and the spring comes off with the nut. And here I'm just threading it back on, and yeah, I noted that I dropped that small washer, so I've got to find it before reassembly. And then on the opposite end of that trolley, I'm just disengaging the other end of the belt by simply turning it slightly to the side and up and out of the catch where it's hooked into. And then here you can see the area that I was talking about where that pulley is, and I'm going to try to raise my belt, the old belt, up and off over the pulley, and here you can see that I'm able to do that. So if I had not been able to get enough clearance here to pull that out, I would have had to take the T-rail completely down.
Okay.
Once you've got the belt clear of the pulley on the garage door side, it's time to move to the end where the actual motor is, and you'll need to loosen the two screws on the belt cap retainer to pull that up and off of the sprocket gear that's actually on top of the motor, so you can get the belt the rest of the way off of the motor assembly. Here's the second screw. There's actually one on the back and one on the front that has to be loosened, and you may be able to get in there with a small socket, but I opted just to loosen these with a wrench and then back them out with a short slotted screwdriver. Once that's done, you should be able to lift the old belt off, get it up and out of the way. You'll also want to check this gear to make sure that it looks okay and no teeth are missing, and that it looks like it's securely fastened to the motor unit. What I'm showing you here is the master link assembly, and after inspecting my current unit, I decided not to replace these, but should you decide that you need those, I've also provided a link in my description where you can get those from Amazon as well. And you'll want to release this little safety clip, and here's how I did it on mine with a small screwdriver. you'll just apply pressure to the removable link and it should pop free, and then it should lift off and you'll be able to remove the remaining pin on the link and pull the link up and off of the belt. And then once you're putting the unit back together, you'll basically just want to reverse this process and you can put this all back together. Incidentally, while I'm just showing you these clips here about inspecting the belt and putting the master links back together, I will mention also that I've provided a link in my description to the Liftmaster Chamberlain customer help website for the Model 1280R owner's manual, which you'll also probably want to refer to if you're working on one of these units. And it goes into a lot more detail about how to make all of the final adjustments, you know, once you've got the belt in place, and safety checks and things like that. So I recommend checking that out as well, should you need to do that. Here I'm just inserting the new retainer clip back in place with a pair of needle nose pliers and a screwdriver. And you'll also note here, and I'm trying to show you this in the video, that I didn't quite get it lined up on one of the link pins. You can see that right here. So I'm going to take a screwdriver and just gently pry underneath the actual link clip until it pops into place on the small pin. You'll just want to make sure that those are securely fastened, because that could come undone and create a problem for you. Now that you've got the new belt ready, it's time to reverse the process and reinstall. It's time to go back to that pulley and try to snake the new belt into place on the pulley. And here you can see I'm accomplishing that by just gently sliding the belt over the top of the T-rail and down around the pulley until it is able to be clipped back on the trolley itself. And on this end, while I was working on the other end, since my helper was actually my camera person for the day, I used a tie wrap or a zip tie, and you can see that in this shot here, just to hold it in place while I was working on the actual motor and getting the belt ready to be positioned on that end. So, you know, utilize those little tips and tricks if you can. If you're working by yourself, you might need a third hand, and that's an easy way to accomplish this. Here I'm just placing the belt back on the gear sprocket on top of the actual motor and checking it to make sure. And then I'm applying the rod, the threaded rod, back into the other side of the trolley. And here's where I'm noting that this may be a little bit difficult, and if you opt to purchase a new tensioner assembly, which is the spring, the nut, and the washer, which I've also provided a link to in my description on Amazon where you can get that. It comes preloaded, if you will. But here, since I didn't buy those extra parts, I didn't think I needed them, I had to come up with a way to preload my spring. So I looked at it for a minute or two because I wasn't able to get that nut threaded back on the rod because of the new belt not being stretched like the old rod and the spring not being compressed. So I used some small tie wraps to compress my spring enough to allow me to actually thread it back on the rod. So another little tip that you might try if you're having difficulty getting that loaded back on there. And here I'm just showing you that I'm screwing it back on with the tie wrap still in place. And what I'll eventually do is, and you can see that here, is I'm trimming those out, and I'll get all of the pieces completely out of the spring before I actually tighten it down and position it into place. And here I'm just noting that, which I suspected, the new belt would not line up exactly where the old belt was, but I knew that because the new belt was probably not going to be as stretched as the old belt. So I'm using the owner's manual recommendation, and I'm tightening the tensioner spring down to the appropriate tightness, and I also measured how thick that belt is. And now I'm just replacing the cap on the garage door opener end, just like we removed it. Just reverse the process, just make sure it sits back in place properly, and replace the two screws. And here I'm recoupling the power supply to the unit and doing a quick check to see if the unit actually runs. And it appears that I've got it adjusted close to where it needs to be. and I'm just checking it with the garage door actually still disengaged to make sure that everything is running smoothly. And I might also add here that you may want to grease that T-rail. If you haven't done that in a while, it needs to have a little bit of grease on the T-rail to keep that running smoothly. Okay, here I'm engaging the arm on the garage door back into the sliding connector of the actual unit. I've still not engaged it into the trolley yet, but I'll do that here in a minute with the rope on the small handle. Right now I'm just reinserting the Clevis pin and the keeper back in that unit. And once that's securely fastened and you feel like it's engaged properly, you can pull on the rope and release that spring, and that should engage the garage door opener once the power is reapplied and you click the door open button. And you can see that here. I'm about to test that operation. And here it is in the opening position, showing you that it is actually working. And again, you may need to check that owner's manual on how to set the force and closure depth settings on your particular unit, but I'm not going over that in this video. Here I'm checking it to make sure that it closes properly. And all looks good. I want to give a shout out and a thanks to my wife for being the photographer in this. It seemed to come out pretty good. Thanks for stopping by the DIY Collaborative. We've provided some helpful information in the description, including some links that you may want to check out. Please give us your feedback, ask questions, and let us know what you think in the comments section. If you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing, and be sure to check out our other do-it-yourself videos. And don't forget to hit that like button.